Hello everyone, this is Attack the Backlog, the podcast where I, Marc, tries to make a dent in their backlog one game at a time. This episode is all about The Last of Us Left Behind, the standalone DLC that takes place both before and during the events of The Last of Us, as Ellie tries to find supplies in an abandoned mall in order to save Joel, while also remembering a time before the events of the first game when she spent time with a good friend in the very same mall. So you know what I realized almost immediately upon starting Left Behind? I don't really remember anything about The Last of Us, and this is important. I don't think Left Behind works as a standalone product, and I think Naughty Dog knew this when they made it because it wasn't released on its own until over a year after its initial release, and because of how far removed I was from the original game when I finally played Left Behind, it's been over 6 years after all, almost every story bit fell flat and I spent more time trying to remember what happened in the original game than on what was going on in Left Behind, but that doesn't mean it didn't have its moments. While I didn't care about much of what was going on, I didn't really care about any of it. I did have fun with some of this stuff between Ellie and Riley, the aforementioned friend from Ellie's past. The merry-go-round scene stands out just for being fucking beautiful to look at. The lit up merry-go-round contrasting against the dilapidated, overgrown mall was gorgeous and was immediately followed up by Riley gifting Ellie a book of puns, and I can never say no to a good pun or a bad pun. By the way, I'm thinking of reasons to go to Switzerland. The flag is a big plus. There was also some fun to be had in a Halloween shop, but that section went on a bit longer than I would have liked, and after a point I just wanted it to end. There was also a water gun scene that I already knew about because I think it was the one scene everyone talked about when the game originally came out, and after experiencing it for myself, I don't know what all the fuss was about. It was just a water gun fight, pretty boring, and I just wanted it to end, which is how I felt about the game as a whole despite its short length. But as nice as those moments were, sans the water gun fight, they were few and far between and don't come anywhere close to making up for how terrible the shooting is. I remember thinking The Last of Us felt alright as a survival action game, that the shooting, while limited, felt okay, but I was wrong. Very wrong, which may also be why I didn't care for the water gun fight. The shooting in Left Behind feels terrible and is just another reminder that while Naughty Dog is good at a lot of things, they're not good when it comes to shooting. Even the bow doesn't feel that great. It feels a million times better than the guns, but it's still far from great. Thankfully, you can still tackle most encounters stealthily. You kind of have to. Sneaking up on enemies and taking them out with your knife or luring an infected towards a hunter or a group of hunters is always the best option, but if you're seen, all bets are off and it's time to whip out your gun, and those moments are never fun. As you can see, I like my rhymes as much as I like my puns. Ultimately, I kind of wish I skipped Left Behind, or at the very least, I wish I waited to play it until after revisiting the original game. It doesn't stand on its own and isn't fun to play, so what I was left with was a somewhat confusing 2-hour experience that left me with more negative memories than positive ones, and most disappointing of all, has left me way less excited for The Last of Us Part 2, and that's the opposite of what I wanted and expected when I first booted up the game. Also, I was excited to see some accessibility options in Left Behind, but they're garbage. The lock-on feature sucks, and while they have an option to change button mashing bits to button holding bits, something I always turn on in any game that has it, it's not a universal change, and there are still moments where you're forced to button mash, and that annoyed the shit out of me. I wanted to like Left Behind, I really did, but to quote the Rolling Stones, you can't always get what you want. I'm just glad it only took 2 hours of my life to finish and not 10 plus. Anyway, that will do it for this here episode of Attack the Backlog. Once again, I am Marc. Y'all can find me on Twitter and pretty much everywhere at PXSausage. The site is, of course, pixelatedsausage.com, where you can find this podcast, the Pixelated Sausage Podcast, and Unamazingly Baka, all of which are available on podcast services across the globe. You can also check out the art I make on the site, and if you see something you like, you can purchase a print of the piece you fancy. And if you fancy the site in general and anything that we do, please go over to patreon.com/pxs and support us that way. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
I got something else.
What is that?
What did the triangle say to the circle?
What is that?
You're so pointless.
Fuck you! You found another pun book?